So I'd like to bring to order this meeting of the Delray Oaks Planning Commission for this 10th of June in 2020. And with that, Karen, can you please take roll call?
Commissioner Krieger.
Here.
Commissioner Howlick.
Here.
Commissioner Jackshaw.
Present.
Commissioner Burton.
Here.
Commissioner Wood.
Here.
Commissioner Hayworth.
I'm here.
Chairman Donaldson.
Here. Okay, our next item is the consent agenda, and it's to adopt the minutes from the meeting that we had on the 13th of May. Planning commissioners, any comments?
None for me.
Nope. I move we accept them as presented.
Second.
Okay, before we do that, let me take it out to the public real quick. Any comments from the public regarding the minutes from the 13th of May? Okay, I see none. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Halleck seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Our next item is public comments. Anyone wishing to address the commission on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now, and there is a time limit of not more than 3 minutes. If anyone in the public would like to speak, then please, in your participants icon on the bottom, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay, seeing none for public comment, I'll move on to item number 4, which is the building activity report for May of 2020. Planning
Chairman.
commissioners, any questions, comments?
Chairman, can I speak? This is basically what you saw last month with just a few additions. I had some time constraints and I wasn't able to totally update this. So next month it's going to be huge.
Excuse me for
Okay.
interrupting, but I did have my hand raised for public comments, Chairman Donaldson.
Okay, Mary, I'm sorry, I couldn't see it on with the participants, so please, we're going to go ahead and back up then to item 3 of public comment. And
Okay.
Mary, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Mary Solsing. I live at 14 Hillwell Place. Chairman Donaldson and commissioners, I want to make some comments about the future development of the former Fort Ord property. I see from the city manager's June 7th letter, we are in line to receive a $65,000 planning grant from Sacramento. That's great. At the May 26th City Council meeting, Mr. Pick presented a matrix titled 3-Year Goal, Develop City-Owned Properties Sustainably with Public Input. Item 8 of that document reads, then Mr. Pick will, at the August 25th, 2020 City Council meeting, present an exclusive negotiating agreement for the former Fort Ord property with developers for City Council consideration. At the June 2nd City Council meeting, the General Plan Amendment Progress Report was discussed and a number of items were brought up that needed to be addressed. At the last coffee with the city manager, which was held as a Zoom meeting, I, along with several other citizens, including members of this commission, discussed the development of the former Fort Ord property. I specifically asked when and in what manner public input to the nature of the development would be sought. Mr. Pick responded that would be after the exclusive negotiating agreement with the developer is entered into. After that agreement is entered into. That seems exactly backwards to me. How do you know which developer to pick if you have not sought public opinion? Mr. Pick's response was that it is very costly to find out what we want. He wants to have the developer find out what we want at the developer's cost. Now, it doesn't make sense to me. Does anyone here think that the developer's conclusion as to what we want will be any different than what the builder wants to build? I mean, everybody has to act in their own self-interest, and that just makes, I don't know. I plead with this commission to join with me and others in raising this issue to the attention of the elected city council. We need to find out what the people of Delray Oaks want. We need to accordingly amend the general plan, and we need not to enter into an exclusive negotiating agreement with a developer until those things have been done. Let's use that $65,000 grant to amend our general plan and then pursue a developer and development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. And we've gone back to item number 3, public comment. So we're still in that part of the agenda. So if there's anyone else that has public comment, you can push the participants icon on the lower left of your screen and raise your hand, or you can raise your hand to your camera. I don't want to miss anyone. Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to item number 4, which is the activity report, taking into consideration Karen's comments that she made earlier. Is there any discussion amongst the planning commissioners?
None for me.
Okay, I see Commissioner Halleck.
Just one quick question. I do see that 1106 Rosita, the Prue Avila project, is on the building report. So there is permitted work being performed there, listed as project description is a kitchen and bath remodel currently.
Yes.
Does that include the deck, or should we consider that for the item on tonight's agenda as far as comments in any way?
The item on the agenda tonight is just for the deck. The existing building permit was for the interior that didn't need planning commission approval.
Thank you, Karen. I'm clear.
Okay, if there's any other planning commissioner comments, just go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know what you've got to say. Okay, I see none. We'll move on to item number 5, which is old business, which we have none. Moving on to item 6, new business. Item A is for architectural review. The applicant's name is Steve Avila. The location is 1106 Rosita, and they are requesting architectural review to install a 14 by 28 wood deck off the back of a single family dwelling. And the colors and materials will match existing. And Steve, I think I see you there. If you could.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
hear you.
Chair,
I
If
can't.
you could describe your project.
excuse me.
Okay.
I don't know how this works with stepping down. I'm within 500 feet, so I will I'll sort of verbally step out.
Okay, Steve, go
All right,
ahead.
And
Yeah, this
Commissioner
is Steve.
Burton also.
Steve Avila. We are doing the project for my daughter on 1106 Rosita. I'm sorry, I fell off the meeting. I just got back in, and I can't see you guys, but I can hear you, and I'll talk. We're proposing to add a deck up on the back elevation of the house. It's 28 feet by 14 feet, and there's a sliding glass door off the living room, dining room that goes onto this deck. And there's a set of steps off of one end that goes back towards the garage man door, and another one off the other end of the deck that goes towards the side, the rest of the backyard. Any questions?
Okay. What I'd like to do, since I think this one is pretty straightforward, I'm not going to go person to person. I will ask if a planning commissioner has a question or a comment. Just go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and let us know what's on your mind.
I just asked my usual question. Have you talked to neighbors? Have neighbors mentioned anything? Have they commented on any impact it might have on them?
No, but I haven't approached any of them. No.
Okay. But it's
But
been,
no one is. Go ahead.
yeah, it's been netted, so I would like to think that they would have said something had they had a problem.
Yes, I would think so.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like it's going to impact anyone looking at it, either on the Google Maps or walking around. So I'm just jealous of the deck. It's going to be a nice view.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have any setbacks in the map here that I saw, and I asked Karen, and it's within the setback, so.
Okay, any other comments by any other planning commissioner? Jeremy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, this is entirely new construction, or is this repair and replace in kind? Was there a pre-existing deck on site there?
No, there was a set of steps that went down to a patio. I believe
Makes
it was, I think it was 3 or 4 steps that went down to a patio.
It makes sense. I did visit the site. The reason I ask is because the footings have already been placed, and I'm assuming that an inspection process would have been performed for your steel reinforcements. There are also some castings between the first course of footings to the outer course that's just off the concrete slab. Presumably that is reinforced with rebar and would have had to be epoxy anchored with a pull test to the existing slab. That's usually done, an inspection is usually performed before the footings are poured to verify structural integrity and that they're built to specifications, that they're poured to specifications. And I'm not clear on how the work was performed without the inspection being performed, because none of that can happen before this process, before architectural review and the project is approved. So I'm curious if you could provide any insight to the progress of your project at this point.
It had the piers were poured as per the plan. There wasn't a structural engineer involved. He reviewed it. I didn't realize that I was going to have to go through this process. My bad. And I had it dug already. I was trying to keep my men busy, and I had it all ready, and it was raining. So I had the inspector look at it. I had my engineer look at it, and I took pictures. And we are into the lowest portion of the soil adjacent to the wall. That's we're into it 1 foot as per the specifications. There is epoxy steel going into the existing slab. Was added by the engineer. Told me to do that, and there was no pull test. It's a epoxy embed as per his direction, and we do it all the time. Been doing this for 35 years, and I felt confident that and this is my daughter's house, I felt confident I was doing everything right. So I didn't want as you guys know, the soil there is all sand, and I was going to lose all my footings, the 6 foot deep pier holes I dug. So I made the call to pour it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for planning commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I'll go out to the public once again. If you have a comment, raise your hand, either within the system or in front of your camera to provide your comment. Commissioner Jackshaw, did you have a comment?
Yes, living down the street as a neighbor, I think Mr. Avila is doing a great job of improving that piece of property, and I personally like it as a neighbor.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other public comments, one of the things I would offer here is the city inspector will still have to go by and take a look at those footings. This right here is just the architectural review, so I think we're in good shape there. And we'll just have to make a note for city staff that we ensure that the city inspector takes a look at those footings before he proceeds any farther. Okay, with that, I'll accept a motion. Any planning commission?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that That we accept ARC number 20-01 as proposed.
I second it.
Okay,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hayworth. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
My
The-
cat. My cat's opposed.
Okay, it's approved, and there's still a appeal period. And help me out with that, Karen. How many days is the appeal period?
20 days.
20 days. Okay, moving on to the next item, item 6B. The applicant is Sustainable Delray Oaks, and it is file number CUP 20-03. And the site location is the Butterfly Garden, which is next to the Garden Center on Rosita. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to install an owl box in the open space between the church and the tennis courts at the current site of the Butterfly Garden. And I see that we have Karen Harris with us. Karen, will you please describe the project to us?
Happy to. May I share my screen?
Sure.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, Karen, I think you may have to, since you may have to give her permission to share it. I'm not sure.
I saw her.
No,
So-
she should be able to share it, but it's
Yeah.
not showing up.
So this is the application that I have up on the screen, and it's to install.
Karen?
Yes?
We're not seeing your application, so we're not seeing what you're seeing.
We do have it though.
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah, everybody
packet, but
has
it's not up on the
copies.
screen, just so you know.
So if I show video and other photos, you won't be able to see it?
We're not seeing it at this point, no.
Not seeing it, no.
Yeah, and Karen, but we have everything that you submitted. We have that within our packet, so we can refer to that as you speak.
I did have additional things to share, but that's okay in support of this application. It is for one owl box in the open space between the Church of the Oaks and the tennis courts at the current site of the Butterfly Garden Demonstration Project. It's an educational feature for integrated pest management as described in the city's stormwater permit. The project is partially funded by a grant from the Monterey Regional Stormwater Management Program, the Monterey Stormwater Education Alliance. The box was donated to us by the Monterey landfill, the Monterey Regional Waste Management District. They have 10 boxes already installed. They have 2 extra ones. One went to the Marina Library and one came to us. So the people that are installing the boxes are Humane Wildlife Control, Inc. So they're monitoring all these boxes, and they've been very successful. So the plan is to install it 5 feet in the ground. Instead of using concrete, we'd be using DG or some small gravel, and using a 2-post system so that we can swivel up the big post and make it easier to install. And it'd be also secure. So all the materials are listed there. The location was selected by Rebecca at Humane Wildlife Control as being the ideal location facing southeast to prevent weather from getting into the box and keeping the owls happy and dry, and the fledglings able to hop out onto the oak tree there. So I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Okay, what I'll do is start with Commissioner Burton, and I'll move around the dais, and the last person will be Commissioner Wood. So please, Commissioner Burton, any comments, questions?
No, my only comments, thank you, Karen, for your diligent work on this.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much. Commissioner Jackshaw.
Something just came to mind. You have a daycare right there, and I'm wondering whether during the day, all the commotion and everything else, if we have young ones, or whether the mom and dad would particularly care for all the noise and racket going on from the daycare. Apparently you have an expert, but that would be a question. And if it is a problem, that it just, we approve it with relocation on the other side of the butterfly or whatever. And 2, there was a resident cat, and he had a complaint that you were going to take some business away from him. So that was the only other comment.
It's true.
Chairman, if I could,
Yes.
there's no preschool anymore,
Oh, okay.
just to clarify.
My comment is null and void.
All right. Commissioner Jackshaw, thank you. Commissioner Hayworth.
I really like this. I think that's pretty cool. I just had a couple of questions, though, for maybe Karen or Kim or Dino. What's our liability with this thing if it falls over and hurts somebody? And is there some sort of inspection process for it since it's going to be on city property?
I can take a swing at that. First of all, we're excited that about the butterfly, or about the owl box going up, and I hope they have better luck getting an owl into that thing than we've had in the other boxes in the city. But we will have our building official inspect after it's installed to ensure that it's safe. And in terms of doing the work ahead of time, as has been mentioned in the application, the volunteers will be signing releases of liability during the installation and construction phase. That should address in both cases city liability.
Okay, any other comments, Commissioner Hayworth? Okay, I'll move on to Commissioner Halleck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had certain concerns with the preschool, the playground aspect, also concerning this project and the butterfly garden as a whole. Now I've just learned that they no longer hold preschool there, but do they still have the Sunday school where children are taken care of on Sundays while the adults are in service at the church? Do we know that?
I don't know that.
So we don't know if it's utilized or not. Okay, I'm curious, does Sustainable at Delray Oaks already have they already been issued a conditional use permit for city parcel concerning the butterfly garden as a whole? They have not. And so this is not, the butterfly garden as it sits currently is not in fact a city sanctioned project, am I right?
It is. We were approved to do
Just the
phase
city.
1 and phase 2, and that was presented to the city.
Okay.
City Manager, would you like to provide any commentary on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As some of you may recall, there was a discussion about what, as the sort of the complexity of the volunteer work on public property increased from planting plants and maintaining islands to something more substantial. There was a discussion about at what point would it exceed staff's level of sort of ministerial approval and require a public process for review. And where we landed with that was that the initial phases of the butterfly garden were staff level approvals, and those were approved, and the work's been done and it looks fantastic. And that the installation of this fixture that involves concrete and a post and a box would sort of be our first test of using a public process for its review and approval. So Commissioner Halleck, that's the difference that you see between the staff approval of the initial phase, which was granted, and the CUP at no cost because it's public work being done for the good of the public on public property, but receiving public review and approval. That's the difference here, and that's why you see the first CUP of its kind, and this is it.
Thank you, City Manager Pick. Thank you for clarifying that. And so, just if I could back up just a little bit, I was just concerned because I wasn't sure where that was in that process. I certainly don't recall it coming before the Planning Commission. And if it had, or if it does, it being a pollinator attracting feature, certainly for butterflies, we hope that'd be beautiful. And again, sustainable Del Oaks, it's a beautiful contribution to that portion of the city. But the intention is also to attract other pollinators, including bees. And one of my concerns was its closeness, its proximity to the playground and the daycare, which I've just learned is not so much occupied on a normal basis as a preschool. But there may be certain risk with over the population of bees and children being stung and their reaction to it. And so I just thought there might be concern there. I'll try to focus more now with greater clarity on just the architectural review aspect of the owl box and the addition to the butterfly garden as it exists. Thank you, Karen, for, it's just a really informative, comprehensive little package. You've obviously done your research with the, what was it, the Moss Landing Wildlife Institute. Don't quote me on that, but experts. And the illustrations are great. We're not receiving it in the required 11 by 17 minimum format, but you don't have really detailed plans. I do see an overall, like a Google Earth site plan, a plot plan, and other information. And there is an illustration with the owl box intended position pictured. But I've been to the site several times within the last 7 to 10 days, including about 2 hours ago, and I don't see any netting or story pole indicative of the placement of the owl box. So although I can see what the intention is here, it would be clearer as per the guidelines to get a visual so I could really get a feel for it dimensionally and such. But otherwise, I have no issues.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Halleck. Karen Harris, would you like to comment on anything that was said?
Well, we've had 3 boxes already installed on city property, and I don't think there have been any issues with them being placed in, on public land. And so we have this box, and it's supposed to be better, bigger, and more inviting for the owl box, for the barn owl families. So we're hopeful that we'll be successful in using this as a tool to educate the community. It's supposed to be no more than 15 feet high, so I didn't think that a netting was required, and I wouldn't know how to do that anyway. It's just a straight pole, the box at the top. But if that's what you'd like, you know, we can certainly figure out a way to do that. But to put the pole in there, I might have to get another permit just to do that.
Okay, Karen, thank you. I'll move on to Commissioner Krieger.
Yeah, I'd like to just Commissioner Burton and some of the other commissioners, and thank you for the effort that Sustainable Del Oaks has taken. I mean, it's a lot of initiative, and going by and looking at it and looking at the drawings, you can see how this is really going to be hopefully beneficial. Hopefully we'll attract those owls. I like the idea that this might be a little more efficient, or the efficacy might be a little greater than the other ones. So we'll hope for that. But thank you for your work. I think it's a great addition to the community, and look forward to go down there and standing in the butterflies someday. And it'd be really cool to go down there and see them flying in and out someday. That would really be cool. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Krieger, thank you. And I'll move on to Commissioner Wood.
Oh, Karen, thank you very much for all the great research you did. You really did your legwork. And I think it'll be a great addition to the area.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Commissioner Jackshaw, did you have another comment?
Yeah, with the sign ordinance up in the air with the committee, I hope they are going to address the potential for rent sign that's going to be up on the box.
Well, we're not going to charge them rent. We're not going to charge them rent.
Open house.
We got to pay them. They're going to be getting 400 rodents a month.
Okay, moving on. My comments, I think it's a wonderful project. I just think it's fantastic. And Karen, you know, for your vision and your diligence with this whole thing, I commend you for that. You've done the research, not only for the location, but also the orientation of it to maximize the potential of getting a resident. And I really appreciate that. I like the aspect of it being put in DG or gravel, just because of the temporary nature of it. And with the fact that we don't know quite sure what's going to happen, how it might be impacted by FORTAG, for example. But it got me to thinking about something, the temporary nature of the box. What would potentially happen if, let's say, FORTAG decides that the best route is through that area where the butterfly garden is, and we have a resident in that owl box, and we get to that situation, what plan do we have when we come to that dilemma? So Karen, do you have any ideas on that?
Well, one of the reasons that the location that is near that oak tree is favorable is because we're probably not going to take down that oak tree. And it's above where that pathway is leading to the tennis courts. And FORTAG, when I spoke with Rich Deal, wanted to use that pathway as part of the FORTAG trail. So it didn't look like it would be impacted at all. Whereas if we had it moved over where the garbage can is, which would have been another favorable location, that would have probably been in the way of the FORTAG trail work. As far as the noise and whatnot, the owls that are over at the landfill, they were inside the MRF building. They had a lot, and that's very noisy. Trucks coming in and out, machinery and all the people. And they put maybe 7 boxes alongside the road that goes to the MRF. And most of them have owls in them already, and there's traffic going by. So we did want to move it away, have the box away from Canyon Del Rey and the electric lines. The electric lines would have been the biggest issue, not the sound, but the electric lines. And the tennis noise itself, the pinging of the balls, because that's not a regular noise that's routine.
Okay.
Not this kind of noise. It's like a jarring kind of thing. So we moved it further away from the tennis courts. So it should be okay. That was from the recommendation of the expert at the Humane Wildlife Control.
Okay, Karen, I appreciate that. That was a great explanation. The city manager, Pick, do you have a comment?
Yeah, Chair, that was a great question you posed, and I appreciate Karen's response. It was terrific. From the city's perspective, obviously, as we do with all other work being done on city property, staff would recommend a condition of approval for this CUP be that the city retains discretion to remove the owl box if necessary. We have no desire to remove it. We'd love to see it up there forever and occupied by an owl and by a family there. But as a practical matter, given that there's going to be some changes in that area with FORTAG and simply unforeseen potential impacts of that project, staff recommends that a condition of approval be that the city retain discretion to remove if needed.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'd like to take it out to the public. If there are any public comments, please raise your hand. And I think you'll be able to unmute yourself. I don't think I have to do it. Are there any public comments? Okay, Kevin, yes.
Kevin.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Karen along with everyone else about all the hard work she's put into this, going after the grant monies and getting donations. Just she's been a major force moving this whole garden forward and very supportive of the owl box. And just to address briefly that last comment, if unforeseen things happen and it did need to be moved, I think there are specialists in the area that have experience with relocating barn owls. And so I'm assuming there's resources available to us that we'd be able to get in contact with. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Kevin, thank you so much for your comment. I also see we have Ken Rutherford, hand up.
Yes, thanks, Ken Rutherford. I just also wanted to echo what Kevin just said. Karen's done a remarkable job in doing all the legwork on this, and I think it really reflects well on Delray Oaks and the residents volunteering to do such great projects. I hope the Planning Commission will approve this based on some of the comments that have been made, and I hope that some of the minor oversights will be overlooked and it won't delay this project, especially considering the conditions we're under with COVID and sheltering in place. Some of the small formalities just can't be met. So I appreciate and hope that you will approve this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And I also see that Kim Shirley has her hand raised. Kim?
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Donaldson. I just want to thank Karen Harris for all the work she's done. She's done such a good job. She did a lot of work researching this. She's put a lot of time and effort into it, and I appreciate the Planning Commission taking the time to review this. I think the Owl Box is an excellent addition to the Butterfly Garden. I think the Butterfly Garden provides a lot of educational opportunities, and I think the Owl Box being there also just really ups the ante, and it's super exciting. It'll be fun to watch. So I have some good feelings for it. So thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it. And Karen, you've done an excellent job. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Kim. Anyone else in the public that would like to make a comment? Okay, I'm seeing none. Public comment is closed. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we accept conditional use permit 20-03 with the condition that the city reserves the right to remove the owl box if needed.
Second.
Okay, I have a second. So all in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, the conditional use permit is approved.
Thank
Karen,
you very much.
I echo everything that everyone has been saying. Thank you so much for your hard work. It's just going to be a great project. So thanks again for that. Okay, moving on to the next item, item 6C. The applicant's name is Bill Westfall. The file number is ARC 20-02. Site location is 7 Baranda Way. The applicant is requesting architectural review to add 684 square feet to living area, add 259 square feet to the garage, add a covered porch, and remove a carport for the single family dwelling. The colors and materials will match the existing. And Bill, I think I see you there. If you could, you've got yourself unmuted and you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my clients recently purchased the property there at 7 Baranda Way. And, you know, it's never been remodeled in the 70, 80 years of being there. It's in desperate need of upgrades. And they're ready to invest in the property and make it a beautiful home.
Okay, Bill, thank you for that. I will start off with Commissioner Burton.
Looks good. I love it when residents are upgrading their homes and making the community better. Thank you to the family.
Okay, Commissioner Burton, thank you. I'll move on to Commissioner Hayworth.
Thank you. When I looked at it at first, I thought, man, looks pretty big for that lot. But I double checked the calculations and stuff, and it's within the lot coverage. So it's okay. I did ask Karen about the setback on the side of the garage being 4 feet 1, and she says we don't need to do any sort of variance or anything there. Not much of a backyard at that place.
Yeah. Luckily, they've got that one section in the back of the lot there that they plan on taking full advantage of. That's why they want to put a little covered porch back there. But yeah, you know, those odd-shaped lots on the cul-de-sacs, they're a bit of a challenge to, you know, develop them in an attractive way. But I think we came up with a nice-looking design there that fits in with everything else on the street.
Yeah, and I can see the remodel was really needed. That closet in bedroom 2 looks like, what were they thinking?
Oh, I know. Well, it looked like they added onto the house at some point and just ended up with a crazy closet right in the middle of the bedroom.
Anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And I'll move on now to Commissioner Jackshaw. Make sure you unmute yourself, George.
Somebody muted me. Denise and I went over there and walked around, and it all looked good. I like to see, obviously, Delray Oaks houses being improved. We were met outside by the twin sister, so I'm sure she'll be keeping an eye on how well the project continues. So I like it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll move on to Commissioner Halleck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find this to be the easiest item on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Westfall, for a very clear presentation. You've provided us with all the information necessary. The only thing I spotted as I walked around the site, as Commissioner Hayworth had pointed out, is the 4-foot setback on the side of the house. But being pre-existing and as close in proximity to the other, the neighboring structure, it looks like you split the difference as best possible on the property line there. So what can you do there? But overall, you've just given us everything that we need to make a decision, including everything found in the little handout that you acknowledge. You followed every single requirement within. You even went so far on the job notes to provide us with the proportions of lot size and coverage. Plans are more than ample. No work seems to have been performed before this approval. And I'd like to thank you, especially in these trying times during COVID-19, during the pandemic. I know that we can be a little spread thin, but the fact that you were able to get up there and flag off an entire home remodel is very impressive. So thank you for everything. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to Commissioner Krieger.
Yeah, not much to add really. We walked up the other night, and as the other commissioners noted, once you actually see it, it's even better than what looks on the plans. I mean, you can see right where it's gonna be. It's gonna be a nice improvement. We talked to the Adams next door, they're old friends. We were talking to them, and they had no concern. And I was going to talk to the next door neighbor, and as Commissioner Jackshaw pointed out, it's her twin sister, so I didn't bother. I figured she'd be okay with it. Yeah, I think it's going to be just another house, Delray Oaks, getting brought up and looking nice, and it's really, really encouraging to see them popping up and down the street one after the other. So thank you.
Okay, great comments. I'll move on to Commissioner Wood.
Yeah, it looks like a great project. I really like that back covered porch. Always wanted one of those. And yeah, thank you, George, for taking me around. Show me the loops.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and yeah, met the sister. It looks like a really great project.
Thank you, Denise. And we can put a back porch just like that on your house anytime you like.
No, it won't work. We tried.
Okay, Denise, thank you so much. The only question that I had was, it looks like on the plans, the new garage comes to the edge of the carport. And on the netting, it looks like the garage stops short of the edge of the carport. So which one is the most accurate?
Yeah, the new garage will be 4 feet back further than the front of the existing carport. So the setback will actually increase there.
Okay. Yeah, I was just a little confused because I think on your plans, it shows it going to the edge of the carport, if I'm not mistaken. I put one over the other and looked at it. So that might be just something that you can check out. It doesn't impact what decision we're making now, but it might be something that you might take a look at. That's all.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, I'll go out to the public. If you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ARC number 20-20 at assessor's parcel number 012-481-014 as applied for.
I'd like to note that he said 20-20. It's actually 20-02.
Thank you for correcting me. Addendum to the motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Then all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, ARC 20-02 is approved. And from my standpoint, I know Celia is going to be real happy to have her sister there. So that's awesome. It's the part of Delray Oaks that I love, that people are taking good care of their houses and families are coming back. I just absolutely love it.
That's
Mr.
great.
Chair?
It's a great street. As you all know, I did live on that street until very recently, so it'll be like going home for me to build the project. So we're excited.
Thanks again, Bill. Really appreciate it.
And Mr. Chair, there is a 20-day appeal period also on that.
Yes, correct. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, item 6D was moved to a future meeting, and I just wanted to kind of give you some reasons why, and we'll hopefully see that again in the future. But there were two things that required us to move it till a future meeting. And one of them was the survey that was inside the packet was not the latest survey that had been done. And I know it was difficult for a lot of commissioners because the scale was so small to see exactly what was within the lease boundary and what wasn't. So the applicant's going to correct that to make it easier for us and the public to determine what is in and what is outside of the current lease boundary. And the other thing that needs to happen, just like what we require of our residents, where they provide us with a plan that shows where their property boundary is, and then we go and see where the netting is, so we get an idea of where the structures will be placed, just like we saw with the Baranda example, this last one here. That's required of every resident, but in this case it's reversed because the structures are already there. What the applicant needs to do then is show with either netting or caution tape or whatever way he wants to depict that, he needs to show where that boundary line is. So that way, when the planning commissioners go out there, you can really see what structures are outside the boundary and by how far, and it'll give you a better visual, and it'll also allow the public to see that as well. So those were the reasons why we pushed that to a future meeting. With that, I will entertain any announcements or comments by the planning commissioners.
None from me.
Commissioner Halleck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to go back to not necessarily to address our first item, but just overall. I'd just like to say I apologize for straying from the architectural review aspect of the project. I was more so, I suppose, trying to put emphasis on the fact that the city has a process in place that I believe is there for specific reasons. First and foremost, the protection and safety and out of consideration for the homeowner, their property, and their neighbors in the community. And we provide very clear guidelines that everyone's given when they apply for any project. They are acknowledged on their application. And I've got to say that as a general building contractor myself, that having performed projects in every county from Santa Cruz, Santa Clara, Monterey County, Deep South Monterey County, and many jurisdictions in between, I find Delray Oaks to be probably the easiest, most accommodating in their permitting process and the planning commission review process. These are large hoops and they are not on fire and they're easy to jump through. And my only intention is to put emphasis on that so that we have all the materials necessary in place that we don't have to question the project. We can see your intent clearly, and that we can help you along the way and expedite the process in the best way possible for the applicant.
Yeah, and I'll just say, Commissioner Halleck, your points are well taken, and we have an example of that in, well, no longer in today's agenda, but dealing with issues that are after the fact are always tougher to deal with. So thank you for your comments. Any other planning commissioner comments or announcements? Yes, Commissioner Burton.
Yeah, in these times where we see a lot of negative things, I would like to just say three positives today in our community, and we approved all three of them, and we'll get the other one when they get their package together. So it's to me, it's not.
Okay, Commissioner Burton, thank you. Commissioner Halleck, you had a further comment?
I certainly do. I'd like to comment on, well, we'll start with our last planning commission and the preceding meetings that the planning commission performed in tandem with city manager Denise Duffy and Associates, and quite a bit of public outreach. I'd like to just touch on the sign ordinance issue just briefly, if I could. Well, I apologize in advance. It might not be that brief. I believe, just to I think that the Planning Commission did an excellent job, particularly Scott Donaldson took the information that he had, went abroad to neighboring jurisdictions, got a wealth of information on his own free time in, great commitment and dedication to the city of Delray Oaks, and really came back and presented a well-refined document that was thoroughly reviewed by the Planning Commission, and again with public input, and viewed appropriate and sent off to the City Council. I'll say what I said at that last meeting, despite, and not to minimize or with any disregard for any other perspectives or anyone else's feelings on the intention of that ordinance. I do not think that in any way it was intended as an impingement on anyone's civil liberties, any rights. I believe in supporting and strengthening the rights that we all are afforded and we all love. God bless America. But that, again, the ordinance was created as such with public safety in mind, with lives and property, the safety of the citizens in mind was our greatest motivation. So it didn't really turn out that way. It was reviewed by City Council, as we all know, and there was some deliberation, and subsequently a subcommittee was formed. Be that as it may, and I understand that that's within the power of the City Council to do so, and I wouldn't agree more. I'm always the first to say that more light comes in several windows than just one, being the body which is the Planning Commission. However, I, as well as the rest of the Planning Commission, were invited via email to participate, since it would be comprised of 2 City Council members that were established the evening of the City Council meeting, and that there would also be 2 planning commissioners selected by those council members and 2 members of the public. So I was not present via Zoom, but I did see the video finally when it was posted. So I understand that how the council members were selected, and that the planning commission members, how they were selected. In fact, we all received a group email addressing the entire planning commission as if to whether we had any interest in joining the subcommittee or not. I, for one, stand by our decision initially, and I saw no reason or any further contribution that I could have offered that would have been any different than what I had decided personally and as a member of that body to begin with. Personally, I feel that if I had decided to go back, it would have been a certain discredit to the process, my way of thinking personally, and to the Planning Commission as a whole. And so I opted out. The selection process went on concerning the Planning Commission. What happened was there was a response by, Commissioner Krieger responded immediately that he would join. And then several days later, Commissioner Wood responded that she would join. I was a little bit confused as to the level of correspondence. And whenever I'm unsure, I like to, become sure. And so I inquired with the city attorney as to the fairness of this process, the selection process, with the concerning the planning commissioners, and particularly the members of the public. I expressed that rather than them being merely selected from whatever lot, that such a selection, the residents being representatives of the entirety of the city, of all members of the public, that application process should have been broadcast on all the usual information points for the required time that any of our decisions are really made according to, which is typically 72 hours posted in the bulletins on the city website, and not merely just one social network that not everyone subscribes to, including myself. I also asked, whether or not I could or should respond to that email, that if it was ethical and within the parameters of state law. The city attorney did respond to me indicating that to do so at a group level would in fact be a violation. To do so on an individual level to the mayor, who was the sender of the email, would be appropriate. And so it's with great dismay and some regret that I feel it necessary to acknowledge the fact that, perhaps unbeknownst, 2 planning commissioners did engage in that correspondence and resulting in, from my understanding, a violation of the Brown Act. And I think that that should be acknowledged in an attempt to gain awareness and for this body to cure the violation and to learn from it and move forward.
Okay. City Manager, you would like to provide comment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Commissioner Halleck, just to provide everybody a little bit of context for your the points you raised. The city attorney made me aware today of the situation, and I'd like everybody to know that he has reached out to the mayor and Councilmember Gagliotti and suggested ways to cure the violation, and I'm sure there'll be action taken based on those recommendations. So I just want to provide that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other comments from planning commissioners? Commissioner Halleck?
I'd just like to finish by saying, first of all, thank you for that city manager pick. And I bring this up because, this happened at the, would have been the February meeting, city council meeting actually, where there was a violation of the Brown Act in a similar fashion. I believe that the city council, the majority of which, handled it very well. The mayor addressed it somewhat, and they offered the resolution of curing the violation there within the city council. I found that to be a real learning experience. As a planning commissioner, as a public official, we are required to take a course in ethics, which I have. We become certified to state our understanding thereof. It can all be very confusing, but I find, again, that if I am confused, the first thing that I need to do is not act, instead contact our city attorney, who's very well versed in the proceedings, fair political practices of the parliamentary process of the city. And we've always got the Fair Political Practices Committee. I believe Sonia Rangel is our contact number. We can all get the number from staff at City Hall. But, I did a little further research into it, and some may not realize, but cure is actually I just learned this, but curing is actually a legal term, meaning to settle the violation. A violation which, by the way, can be classified as a misdemeanor offense according to state law. And so for that to happen again in this body, I just want to bring some awareness to that, because furthermore, it's not just the person who initiates the correspondence. It actually incriminates the entire body, whether they respond or not. And if it's really pushed for whatever reason, if a citizen or a member of any body decides that there's disregard for such violation, or that it seems to be repetitive in nature, it can be addressed by the district attorney, and charges can be brought. An injunction can be brought against the specific body or the city as a whole. They can take measures so far as to sit in and record, even in closed sessions. So it's really a black eye on the reputation of the entire body and the good city of Delray Oaks that we're all trying so hard to work at keeping a great image of. And so I think my rant is just about over. I'd have felt remiss had I not mentioned anything. I'm always learning, and I hope that others have too.
Okay, any other comments by planning commissioners?
I want to second whatever Jeremy said. I agree with a lot of stuff that he had just said.
Yeah, I would just point out, if I could, Chairman, that maybe to Adino, it sounds as though maybe Alex, the city attorney, was there when all this was discussed. So it wasn't like something was done without consulting with the city attorney. So if maybe in the future, we just need to look at implementing some additional positive feedback from the city attorney, that we're keeping ourselves on the right side of the line and not running afoul of it. Because certainly everything that was done was discussed at council meeting with the city attorney present, and if there was a procedural thing somewhere there afterwards, then that just to maybe tighten up those communications with the city attorney and help with the education process.
Okay, I'm going to allow City Manager Pick to provide any comments if he would like. If not, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Are there any other comments besides the current conversation, which, we will have ample time to discuss the sign ordinance. And I appreciate everyone's input. And for the public, I know public comment is closed, but I will just say that you will have ample opportunity to put forward your views and comments. There's no question about that, starting with the committee on signs that will be initiated here pretty soon. Okay, so with that, I would like to announce the next meeting is Wednesday, July 8th at 6 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.